Okay, welcome to Sunday lecture number 1 with no tax. I'm Grandmaster Ben Finegold and you're not. And this is for players under 1,000 unrated or just people who like to sit in here because it's sort of nice. Today we're going to talk about opening traps and loose pieces. Opening traps are so good that I'm smiling here because my opponents fell for them, not me. Yay! Okay, let's get right down to it. Now, in fact, most of the positions are actually both, because in chess you can do two things at once. Who would have thunk it? So some opening traps, in fact I would say maybe even half of them, are based on loose pieces. And loose pieces, by my definition, maybe not yours, are pieces that are not protected. So sometimes your pieces are protected and sometimes they're not. In fact, when the game of chess starts, and your pawns are in the second row, assuming you set the board up correctly. This club, unclear. All those pawns are protected. So if on move 1, somebody captured your pawn, which would be illegal, you could take their piece. So even if it's illegal, you'd want them to do it. Okay, so let's have a look at some positions. Okay, this is opening trap number 1. And then some people have seen the opening traps and some haven't. This one actually isn't based on a loose piece. I can't believe it. This is another opening trap. Okay, so this is your favorite opening. What's this opening called?
Caro-Kann.
The Caro-Kann. Named after which two people? Caro and Khan. Yeah, the truth hurts. Okay, now, there's actually reasons why openings have names. And the reason is people play them. If nobody played them, they wouldn't have a name. Okay, so if you find moves on move 1 or 2 or 3 that have never been played before, they don't have a name. For example, grandmasters don't play the move h4, so it doesn't have a name. Now having a name of an opening actually makes it easier for you. So if you're talking to your friend about chess, which I'm sure you're doing every day, instead of saying, these were the moves, you could say, okay, it was a Sicilian dragon, and on move 9 he played g4, and you're like, g4 on move 9, wow. Okay, now in the Caro-Kann, the reason we play this move is, although e5 is the most common move, you've probably seen that before.
Lots.
Yeah. A lot of people want to play d5 and attack the pawn, which is a reasonable move, but they want to protect their pawn first. So they play either the French defense or the Caro-Kann. The difference is, in the Caro-Kann, my bishop isn't blocked very much. And when I say very much, it's not blocked at all. Whereas, in the French defense, it's totally blocked. However, in the Caro-Kann, if you want to attack the center with c5, then you're wasting a move. In the French defense, if you play e6, then c5, you're not wasting a move. So they're sort of different. In fact, I've played them both. When I was a kid, I played the French defense almost every game, even when I was white. I was a good player. And nowadays, I play them both, but I play the Caro-Kann more often. Okay, so the most common move is to defend the pawn, and black takes it, and white takes back. Okay, now, there's 3 moves here that grandmasters play. The third most common is always knight f6. Always. That's always going to be the least common move. However, bishop f5 and knight d7 have traded places. It used to be bishop f5 was the most common move, then knight d7 was the most common move, and now bishop f5 is again. Truth hurts. Now, the purpose of bishop f5 is pretty easy. You attack a knight and you get your bishop out. What could be better than that? And today, not today for you at home, but today for them, there was a game played with former world chess champion Vishwanathan Anand, right? And he played bishop f5 today. That was played about 3 hours ago, or for you at home 3 weeks ago. And Karpov, when he was black in the Caro-Kann, he doesn't really play chess much anymore, he liked to play knight d7. Could somebody in the vast, vast audience explain why black plays knight d7? I wish I knew. Anybody? Bueller? Nobody?
You want to bring the other knight out?
You want to bring the other knight out. If you bring your knight out, which is the third most common move, then white takes it, and black has to take back, doubling his pawns. Some people don't like double pawns. I'm not sure those people are. So when black plays knight d7, he figures white's going to make some normal move. Knight f3 and bishop c4 used to be the most common moves. Now bishop d3 and knight g5 are pretty common, so there's 4 common moves. And then black plays knight f6, and if white takes the knight, black takes back. Now, if you were a super grandmaster, and some of you at home are, then you've seen this before. Here, takes, and then this happens, and the players agree to a draw. That's only if you're a super grandmaster, okay? Because that's when they probably agreed to a draw before the game. Very suspicious. Okay, but we're not super grandmasters here. We play for checkmate. You want some of this? Okay, so here, white has a move which beginners like a lot. That's why this is the beginner class. They're like, oh boy, if I show this to the advanced class, they would go boo, and they would leave the class and be really mad. But in this class, the under 1,000 class, they're like, yay! That's why you were required to bring pom-poms to class. It's required. And the move that was played in the opening trap is queen to e2. And that's a good move against people who don't think. Okay? So the person who doesn't think, they say, well, I played this move because I want to play that move, which is correct. And then if white plays bishop h6, or bishop a6, or bishop b5, I don't think this is the right move. I think black should take that bishop. So that means just because you want to play a move, it doesn't mean it's the right move. It could be that white plays a crazy move, and now you have a better move. Well, it turns out queen e2 is also crazy. It's crazy like a fox, not crazy like Fox News. Queen e2 has a threat. And if black doesn't see the threat, that's good, because this is an openings trap class. Otherwise, where's the trap? So a blunder, which is very common, would be knight gf6. Now you'll raise your hand, because you don't want to shout the answer out, you want to raise your hand. And tell me what white should do by raising your hand. And then I call on you. You! That guy's really short, you don't see him. Okay, he doesn't know. You!
Because if you move the knight to d6 because it attacks the bishop, and if the pawn takes, it's a check. So it checkmates him.
So you approve of knight d6? Is that a good move? Why is it good?
Because it checkmates him.
Yeah, I agree with that. So knight d6 is mate. Now, that's an opening trap which people fall into. Checkmate. Okay, because you're checking the king, and there's no way out, and the queen is pinning. And if I try to take it, the computer won't let me, because it's a mean computer. Okay, now, instead of falling into opening traps and losing, you should be very suspicious. Okay, and what is suspicious? Well, if my opponent develops his knight or develops his bishop, I'm like, yeah, that's what I would do. But if my opponent puts his queen in front of his bishop, I'm like, why is he doing that? And the reason is he has an actual reason. Okay, how about not falling into mate? How about that? So what should black do to stop checkmate? There's more than one answer.
Oh yeah, there's tons.
Yeah, there's probably about 6 answers. What would you do to stop mate? Anybody? Anyone? You?
Move the pawn to e6.
Pawn to e6 is a good move. Now, knight here is risky because the guy takes it. Okay. Other good moves would be queen c7, and now you can't go here because I take it. And other good moves would be knight d to f6, and now the queen defends d6. Okay, so there's lots of options here. Let's see what the engine says. It says knight d to f6, and then it says the 3 moves I said. Wow, that was lucky. I must be lucky. Although you said one of the moves. Now it says knight b6, which also stops the mate. Okay, so all those moves are good. Okay, and that's an opening trap because white's threatening mate. Now, I didn't put this in my list of opening traps, but let's do it now. Because, you know, why not? There's an opening you never heard of. Oops, even I haven't heard of it. And what's this opening called?
Budapest Gambit.
Hello. Yeah, but he already answered. Yeah, so you have heard of it. It's the Budapest Gambit. It's named after your 2 favorite parts of Budapest. Buda and Pest.
Booty?
Yeah, Budapest. What country is that in? You. Incorrect. You. What?
I have no idea.
You're supposed to be correct. Hungary. Right? If you were hungry, you would know that. Okay? And what river is it? It goes through Budapest.
Hungry.
The Hungary River?
Danube.
What?
Danube.
That's right. And it depends what country you're from, depending on how you pronounce it.
My dad told me.
Right. Yeah, I know. I can see. Yeah. I know you never heard of that river. If I ask you in 20 minutes, you won't know. Right? If I ask you in 20 minutes what the river is called, will you tell me? Because I'm going to ask you in 20 minutes. You ready?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so in the Budapest Gambit, this is a very common line. Very common. La 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 la. Okay, now in this position, knight d2 and knight c3 are both moves. Okay, now when white plays a3 attacking your bishop, and then black doesn't move his bishop away, you should be suspicious. You say, I attacked his bishop and he didn't move it. But most people are foaming at the mouth, and they're like, oh boy, I can take a bishop. What a stupid opponent I have. And now, if you remember the last puzzle, which was 3 minutes ago, then you know the answer to this puzzle.
Oh yeah, it's over same thing but to the D3.
Yeah, now black is doing it to white. What's funny is, about 30 years ago, there was a master in Michigan named Dexter Thompson, and he had this position many times, and his rating was 2,300. If I'm playing a 2,300 player, and I attack their bishop, and they ignore it, I'm like, why'd they do that? But instead people are like, oh boy, I'm a piece up against the 2,300, then he would mate them. And I would guess, based on my own experience of playing in tournaments with him, he did this at least 9 times. And I would think 9 people wouldn't fall into mate in 1, but I was wrong. So, okay, and this is the same mate. Now the difference between this opening trap and the other one is black is playing very reasonably. In fact, a grandmaster would play knight takes e5 because it takes a pawn. Okay, and in the other opening trap, the one that we started with, a grandmaster wouldn't play the move queen e2 here. Queen e2 is not a move a grandmaster would play because when black stops checkmate, white's queen is blocking his bishop. So white shouldn't do that. Some people play for tricks, but tricks are for kids, right? Do you like Trick cereal? Has a rabbit on the box? Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and nobody likes it. Okay, so some opening traps, you're just playing normal moves, those are good moves, and your opponent's falling for a trap. But in this one, white's just playing for a trap, and if black sees it, then the queen on e2 is silly. If you want to play queen e2, you should play bishop c4 and then play queen e2. Then your queen's not blocking your bishop. In fact, in this position, if a grandmaster was white, he would play queen e2. That's a common move. It doesn't block the bishop. That's another opening trap. Now this is a blunder. Boo! I don't mean the guy who beat Carlsen. I mean boo, no good. Anybody? No? You at home? No? Okay, now white has a winning move. Who can find it? And when I say who can find it, I don't mean the Chinese player who's the best woman in the world. I mean who can find it. And she can find it.
My dad told me bishop takes e6.
Yeah, your dad told you the wrong answer. Also, didn't you play your dad outside and beat him?
God,
Why is he telling you the answer? Should you tell him? Can't you whisper the answer to him? Then he can say the answer. Yeah.
the answer I am not going to tell you.
Wow, that was a tough answer. Anybody? Yeah, white's actually winning here with the move knight takes f7. Roar! Notice it attacks these 2 pieces because I said so.
But the king's cool.
The king has to take if you don't want to lose all your pieces. Check. Black has 1 legal move. Check. Black has 1 legal move. Can you find it?
There's 2 of them.
No, there's 1. I wouldn't lie to you. Grandmaster.
Oh yeah, there's 1.
Yeah. The other one's illegal, whatever that one was. Yeah. And now, shocking the whole audience and those of you at home, you guys got to calm down at home. No, have a seat. You might fall to your chair. White has made in 1 move, but it's really hard. It's hard. It's hard. But it's hard.
I don't know.
We'll call on a random student. You.
Move the pawn to g4. I don't know.
Is that mate? I think your dad should whisper again. I don't think that's mate. Because I could take the pawn, I can move my king. There's actually mate in 1 move. Are you shocked?
Queen to h3.
Yeah, that's mate. Yeah. Mate's good because you win. Yeah. So h6 is a blunder, but in this instance, queen e2 is a normal move. You're not blocking your bishop. And grandmasters always play this move, attacking the bishop and defending their e-pawn. Man, grandmasters are good. Okay, and I'll show you one more opening trap that I didn't set up, and then we'll go on. In this opening, sometimes black plays here. That's the 3rd most common move. However, before we talk about this position, I have a question for the audience. Let's call on a random student. You ready for the question?
Yes.
What was the name of the river? Okay.
Then you.
Yeah, are you gonna remember in 10 minutes? Say no and I'll say correct.
No.
Correct. You got the right answer. Okay, so in this position, look at this opening trap. In fact, I should have shown this opening trap at the end because it's a loose piece. Black plays check because I said so. Now, I could ask, how many ways can white get out of check? But that's too advanced for this class. That's like the next class. There's so many ways you can't count them all. Too many ways.
There is almost.
There's a lot of ways.
There's 3.
Yeah, that's why it's the next class. Yeah, 4 is also the next class. Yeah. So there's 1, 2, 3,
And 4.
4,
Terrible.
5, 6, 7.
Wow.
There's 7 moves that stop check.
We're totally
Okay,
wrong.
now, if grandmasters were playing, they only play 1 of the 7 moves. They don't play the other 6. The other 6 are bad. That's a good opening trap. 6 out of 7 moves are bad. Now, this one's obviously bad. Come on, right? But there's 2 bad moves that people have played and then they resign. These are the 2 bad moves. They look pretty good. Those moves look pretty good. But they lose a piece. And that's actually part of our loose piece discussion. If you move your knight here or your bishop here, nobody's defending him. So let's play here, and then we'll call in a random student in the back. What's your name, sir?
Marcelo.
What is it?
Marcelo.
Marcelo? And you tell us the winning move for black.
It's Queen B4 check.
Queen b4, winning the bishop. Oh no! And if you play knight e2, it's the same thing. And that's part of our loose piece discussion. That piece isn't defended. So grandmasters always play queen e2. And then grandmasters don't lose a piece. Those guys are good. Right. Okay, let's go to the next puzzle. That puzzle had 5 puzzles in it. Wow, hard to understand. Okay, now this is funny because there's an attorney in Michigan named Linnaeus Bayes. We call him Louis, because Linnaeus. Ugh. Okay, and I've actually hired him as an attorney, and that wasn't the best idea. Anyway, but he was cheap because chess player. Anyway, he's been Michigan State champion, even though he's like 2,000, and Michigan has like 15 masters. So that's pretty good, right? And the reason is he plays in every Michigan Open, so if you play in 30 Michigan Opens, you might win one of them. You might, I doubt it. Anyway, so he gave a lecture once, and he showed, this was his whole lecture, was this one position I'm going to show. That was the whole lecture. One lecture, one position. And this was what he showed. It's the Italian game, and then black plays the 2 knights. And grandmasters usually play d3, and kids usually play knight g5. And they're both good moves.
I never did that.
They're both good moves. d4 is also okay. And here, usually black takes, but bishop c5 is another move. And we get this position. And at the grandmaster level, over the past 150 years, this position has probably occurred over 1,000 times. But usually, it was 150 years ago. And in the last 100 years, people are like, nah, this isn't good for white. However, the lawyer in question, who's 2000, he always plays this with white because about 80% of his opponents blunder here. He likes those odds, right? Now, if you're playing a grandmaster, they only play 1 move here. You know what that move is? With black.
Oh.
Grandmasters only play 1 move with black. What move is that? Anybody? See, white wants to do this, and white wants to do this. Rawr.
That's a good move.
Yeah,
Actually.
so what does black do to stop all of that? Defend it a little bit.
Want the queen to d7?
Very good. Queen d7 is okay. It's still a mistake, but queen d5 is the correct answer. And if I go to reference, it'll say queen d5 every game. Now, queen d7 actually loses material for the same reason. You'll see. Most of this guy's opponents, they play queen takes f6. It defends the bishop, and it takes a pawn. Okay, but it's an opening trap. Now, you remember the loose pieces I want to talk about. Of all of these pieces that black has, which one's not protected?
The bishop.
Which one? This bishop here?
No, the c5 bishop.
The c5 bishop. And actually, white can take advantage of that. However, if black plays the correct move, that bishop is protected pretty much, right? Yeah, you can't do anything about it. Okay. So queen f6 is a blunder, and now white wins a piece. Winning a piece is good. They're taking notes, so let's take a break. They're like, winning a piece is good. Now, if you watch The Simpsons, every episode of all time, I've missed the last 8 years or so, there was an episode where they said Marge and Homer were bad parents. They had to go to parenting school. And and Marge was like embarrassed, and Homer was like taking notes. Wow, these are good tidbits. And he said, wow. He says, put stuff that should be refrigerated in a refrigerator. That's a good note. And then it said, throw garbage in garbage can. And he wrote, throw garbage in garbage can. Makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. And then Marge was like, oh, she was so mad. But Homer learned a lot. Okay, so in chess, when you can win free pieces and you can attack loose pieces, you should take them.
There's 2 loose pieces. Actually, more than 2.
What about this one? These pieces are all defended. I can't take those.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. There's 7 loose pieces.
Do you know what a loose piece is?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a piece I can take for free, $.
Right, which pieces are loose that aren't this one? What are the other ones?
The pawn next to it.
This one?
Yeah.
That's
and
not-
Then, and then
what?
that rook. The
Yeah,
rook.
well, when I say pieces, I don't mean pawns. And also, this pawn's almost protected, although he's technically right because it's pinned. Yeah. Okay, so in this position, when you want to capture loose pieces, my definition of loose pieces, which is not yours, is pieces on the 4th or 5th row. Those are the ones that are easy to take. If they're over here, you're too short to reach them. If you were at a chessboard, you couldn't even reach those pieces. You have to stand on your chair. Okay, but you can reach this piece. Okay, so the way to win that piece is you have to play a 2-move combination. That's 1 move too many for most of you. Okay, you have to take the bishop. It's easy to analyze because black only has 1 move that makes sense. What move is that?
Take goes the pawn?
Yeah, and now we have a trick. How do we win a piece? Yeah, you in the back.
Queen h5.
Queen h5.
That's about
Attacking the king and attacking the bishop. And the guy who was giving this lecture, he was so happy because he did that a lot. He likes winning the bishop.
How many times?
He did it a lot. He didn't say it, but he did it a lot.
Okay.
And after queen d5, which is the correct move, now we don't have that trick, white has a really, 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 really tricky move. It's so tricky I shouldn't show you. You might start crying. Knight c3. Confusing the audience.
Oh, I really like that move.
Yeah, now the audience isn't confused. If you take the knight, I take your queen and the bishop's pinned. Man, there's a lot of pinned pieces around here. And so black always plays queen f5 because he doesn't want to lose his queen and he wants to defend his bishop. These moves have been played many, many, many times. Not by me, but maybe in blitz chess I had it once, I don't know. Okay, so the opening trap is queen takes, loses to knight takes and queen h5 check and then queen takes bishop. Bam! Then that pawn is loose. That guy's right. Okay, good job. No, not too good. Okay, now this is an opening trap that I haven't fallen into yet. So they were trying to decide whether to put me in a home for the mentally challenged, and they always show me this position. And whenever I solve it right, I get to stay out for another year. Once I forget, then I'm in the house. Okay, and this is the Nimzo Indian. I've had this position more times than you've had any position. I've had this thousands of times. Some of my opponents play c5 because my pawn's not defended anymore. So I take, and some of them take back, and some don't. And in this position, there's an opening trap I can fall into, but I haven't fallen into it yet. Once I do, I'm in a lot of trouble. Okay? Whenever I'm white in this position, I almost always play knight f3, although I think I played a3 a few times. However, a blunder, which loses material, which looks good, is bishop g5, pinning his knight. I'm the best, or maybe I'm the worst. Now, black has a move that wins material. It's not good for white. It's good for black, right? Is looking at me helping? Look over there. Yeah, I can make that bigger too, so you can see better. Now you know the answer. No.
Wait, what?
Yeah, now black has a winning move. If I turn the engine on, it'll be like, oh boy, this wins for black. but that would be cheating, so I won't do that. What's the winning move for black? It wins material, and it also does something else good. It does two things that are good, but if I tell you the second thing, that'd make it too easy. Stop raising your hand at home. You know the answer, be quiet. The people at home are like, ooh, me, terrible. Yeah, don't do
Somebody
that.
there even.
Yeah, don't do that. No, they're at home. Anyone? You? Oh. All right, I'll give you a hint. It also stops white from castling. Oh, bathroom's down the hall. See, this is a 3-move combination. That's crazy. What's the only move that stops white from castling forever? Yeah, black can do it. No, nobody?
Take F2.
Yeah, that's the winning move. So obviously if white goes here, that worked out pretty well. So white has to take to try to take advantage. And now we have a double attack.
Oh. Move knight to g4.
Knight g4 is check, correct? And you're attacking the bishop. That's why bishop g5 wasn't good. So white gets out of check somehow. Take the bishop. Black won a pawn. White can never castle because that's illegal. You already moved your king. Although, man, some of the games I play. Okay, and black is winning. If I turn the engine on, it's going to say black's winning. Hooray! And if I go back to that position, okay, it says the position's about equal. It slightly prefers white. And after bishop g5, a red light's going to go on. You see this red light? That means don't do that. And then it says bishop takes f2 is winning for black, and otherwise it says white's a little better. Man, those computers are good. And then my fan starts running. Whenever the engine's really happy, the fan starts running. It gets too excited, so it has to cool off.
Where is the fan?
You can't hear the fan on my computer?
Wait, what?
It's really noisy. Can't you hear that? You don't hear that? There's a fan on the computer because it's like, wow, I'm up a pawn. I can't believe it. All right, have a seat.
There's no fan.
Yeah, it's my greatest fan. It's my only fan. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. That joke doesn't make sense. Moving on. Okay, next. Yours, so next. Now this one is too easy for the class, although based on the previous puzzles. Okay, now as you all know, Kasparov's most famous game was against David Letterman.
That was really.
Now you never heard of David Letterman, but you might have.
I did.
Exactly. Okay. And David Letterman would be called in. They'd call him, and Kasparov would say a move, and Letterman they'd play like one move every day or every week. And then at some point they got this position, and Letterman played a move, and Kasparov's like, don't play that. He played something like Queen E6 check or Queen E5 check, and Kasparov's like, yeah, that's terrible. Don't do that. Okay, now there's a more terrible move here that a lot of people have played who are beginners. They're like, oh, my queen's attacked, let me move my queen. Now if you're grandmaster, there's 3 moves you've played. Queen A5, Queen D6, and Queen D8.
That's a terrible.
And right now, I think Queen D6 is more popular than Queen A5, I'm not sure. However, a terrible move, which I've seen many kids play, is Queen C6. Boo! And this time I was talking about the guy who beat Carlsen. And now white's winning. White has a move recommended by me.
Oh, I know this one.
You.
Move the bishop to b5.
Bishop to b5, pinning the queen to the king. So Queen C6 is the worst move. In fact, even Queen D7 is better, although I wouldn't play it, because after Bishop B5 we can block the bishop somehow. So Queen C6 is the worst move. And it's even worse than what David Letterman played. That's how bad it is. That's when you know.
Who's David Letterman?
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to know. And so in chess, when you line up your king and queen, or even if you do it like that, that can be very dangerous. I don't recommend that, because then the guy can win your queen. And it's sort of funny the way it works. The king and queen are on the same diagonal, and the guy who beats you is a diagonal piece. Who would have thunk that? I guess that makes sense. And, oh yeah, okay. So this is funny. I had a student who was very suspicious, and he was rated 1100, and he got to like 1900. I can't believe his rating even went up. But anyway, because if you knew him, you'd agree with me. He was famous for falling out of his chair. That was his specialty. He would play a tournament game and he would fall out of his chair. He did it a lot. And we had a lesson once. When I say once, I mean we had lessons every week. And he would fall out of his chair a lot during the lesson. And my favorite story, I was giving him a lesson, and I was like, this move, and I looked up and he was gone. He was in the other room, like going like this, rawr. And I'm like, hey, get back here. Okay. Yeah, you would never do that, right, Alex?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, and the reason I mentioned this student is that he knew this trap his whole life. And when I showed it to him, he's like, yeah, I know that, and rawr, and he was, okay. And then, when he got to like 1700, his rating went way up, then he fell into the trap. And I was like, what? He's like, ah. So even when you know something, you can still fall into it if you're not paying attention. So it happens in the advanced French. Okay, and if you're playing my wife, you'll probably have white in this position all the time. Whenever she plays the French, she's facing e5 a lot. Okay, so we get this position. This is very common. Now, black's putting a lot of pressure on d4. Rawr. Okay, and white, he ignores the d4 pawn. In fact, he more than ignores it. He says, well, my queen's defending it. Let's block my queen. And actually, that's a very common move. Developing your bishop is good. Okay, and in this position, after takes, all grandmasters play bishop d7. All of them, including me. And then there's lots and lots of games. If I try and reference, it'll say like 3,000 games. But if you're a weaker player, in my first class, you might blunder. Boo! Not sure which boo that was. And now, white's winning. Don't do that. Don't do that. So what's the winning move for white? Anybody?
The winning move for white?
Who? Yeah, black just took a pawn. Are you ashamed?
Check 24.
Queen to d8 check.
Queen to d8 check. Wow, this is the first class.
How's he gonna get there?
Wow.
He must be a grandmaster.
That's not a good move either, even if it was legal.
I said.
It's funny, that reminds me of my son when he was 4.
I said a4.
And, no, you said d8. Okay, and we have it on film, so I can prove it. So what's funny is, when my son was little, like you, but littler than you, he was very rule-bound. You had to do this, you had to do that, and now he's not rule-bound. Okay, but anyway, and so if his opponent did something illegal, he would be like, you can't do that, and director, and rawr. Okay, now what's funny is, sometimes your opponents do illegal things that help you. So I wouldn't call the director, I'd be like, thanks. So if my opponent went here, I would take the queen. But my son, when he was 4, he would be called the director. That's illegal, rawr, I'm mad. And then they would take it back. And I'm like, don't you want your opponent to do that? Okay, so you meant queen a4 check, attacking the king and the knight. Looks good, but black can save himself. No! How does black save himself?
Move the bishop to d7.
I don't think that saves the knight.
I said the black piece, the back.
Right, if
bishop.
you go here, then I take your knight.
And then he takes your queen.
And then you take his queen. And then you lost your knight. Okay, so the guy in the back, that's his name, he said knight c6. And now black's up a pawn. Okay, so the correct move is to take the knight, that's the trap. And now white has a really, really, really good move, recommended by me. You in the back.
Bishop b5.
Bishop b5 check.
Oh, that's
And attacking the queen.
That's gonna
And what's
hurt.
funny was, my student who knew this trap for 6 years, then he fell into it. I guess he forgot. And he lost his queen.
That's actually make true.
Yeah, don't do
Someone
that.
can forget.
If you know a trap, don't forget it. You should pull it on people, not forget. Now, it's actually easy to understand why grandmasters go here. Now bishop b5 is not check. Or bishop b6. Okay. And so, if you castle, which is the most common move, then this is a normal position. I've had this position with white and black. Black's up a pawn, although I'm not a big fan of his development. I'm like a little fan, not a big fan. Okay, so was knight takes pawn good for white or good for black?
Black.
Close. I'll give you one more guess.
White.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you take the knight, you lose your queen. Losing your queen is bad. I'll let you take notes. Okay, so that was an opening trap. Don't take that pawn. Okay, now this actually happened at a chess club I was working at in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The guy with white was 1700, and the guy with black was not. I'm going to say he was 500, and I'm being nice. Okay, and they got this position. This position has never occurred before. I mean, it's occurred like 1 billion times. And white played a slightly unusual move, bishop g5. Slightly unusual. And black played a very unusual move, c6. And white was thinking, c6, that doesn't do anything. I can do whatever I want, which is for the most part true. In fact, if it was black's turn to move here, white's doing great. There's no threat. But white helped black and played the move e3. Now there's a big threat, and black is winning. This is an opening trap and a loose piece. It's got both. So what's the winning move for black, recommended by me?
Move a king. Oh yeah, move the queen to a5.
He was thinking that, but he didn't say nothing. He saw the movie Marathon Man. No, you never saw that movie. Yeah. Man, that's the most complicated joke I've ever made in my life. Wow. It would take me like 5 minutes to explain that joke. That's pretty good. If you were in the Marathon Man, if you were like one of the actors in the movie, or you made it, then you would get the joke. Otherwise. Okay, so queen a5 check, attacking the bishop on g5. Now let's go back, this is funny. If white doesn't do anything, how about there? This doesn't work anymore because I can move my bishop back. So actually the losing move was here, and now the bishop can't go back anymore. So then this wins a piece. It's funny how c6, that was pretty dangerous. And I actually saw that. And then white lost the game because he's down a bishop. Okay, and that's a loose piece that happens. I hate when that happens. Okay, and this is a famous one. It's in the Queen's Gambit, where you gambit your queen. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so in this position, notice this pawn is defended 1 billion times. It's defended by the queen, by the pawn, and by the knight. And white plays bishop to g5. That's actually the most common move. And the idea is, let me show you the idea. Let's say you attack my bishop. I take, and you can either mess up your pawns. If you don't mess up your pawns, now your pawn's not defended. I just take it and I win a pawn. Yay! Hooray for me.
And then it attacks the queen.
Yeah. Okay, so in this position, most grandmasters play bishop e7. And some grandmasters will pin your knight. And occasionally, a grandmaster will take the pawn. Okay, there's another move, which is fine, which is knight d7. And after knight d7, the knight, which was protecting the pawn, is pinned. And the queen that was protecting the pawn is blocked. So it looks like white wins a pawn. But it's an opening trap class, so you gotta watch it. So white's like, la 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 la, I take a pawn, and black says, stop saying la 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 la. Okay. And white takes the pawn. White's up a pawn. But it's opening trap class, so that means that's a bad move. Now black's winning. Before we find the winning move for black, let's ask Alex a question. What am I going to ask you, Alex?
What do I want to ask?
No, what am I going to ask you?
What's the winning move?
No, I'm going to ask you what's the name of the river.
Danube.
Yeah, close enough. Okay.
Danube.
Yeah. Also, if you're like Eastern European, you could say Danu or something. They don't care. All right. So, what's the winning move for black? Very hard to find. This is more of a class 2 kind of tactic.
Knight takes d5.
Knight takes d5, sacrificing his queen. How could he? White takes the queen, and now black plays the crushingest move ever, plus tax.
Checkmate, bishop.
Not checkmate, but it's close. Bishop b4 check. White only has one legal move. We could take that queen, we don't have to. And now if you're good at counting, which you're probably not, but if you are, black's up a piece. Black has 3 minor pieces, and white has 2. 3 is more than 2.
I figured.
It's one more up.
Yeah. So I have a question, Alex. this knight takes d5 for white, was that a good move or a bad move?
Was a bad
It was a bad move because then black took it. Yeah, that's an opening trap. So do grandmasters do that and lose?
No.
No, they play e3 and then they lose later because they're good. Whoa, what's all this? d4, d5. What's the winning move? That's for the advanced class. Okay, so c4, let's promote variation and let's delete variation. There we go. Now it actually makes sense. Okay, so this is actually a game played many years ago between two international masters. They were about as good as I was, although not this game. Okay, and white played c4, and as you know at home, c4 is explosive, right? Okay, good, he got it. Okay, and in this position, black played the very unusual bishop g4. Now, chess is a tough game because there's stuff you should do, and if you do that stuff, you might lose. Let me give you an example. In real life, let's see, what's a good example? Okay, in real life, you should go to school, rawr, right? But then you go to school, and then lightning hits your car. Then your car's destroyed, and then you go to the hospital, and you're in the hospital for a week. And you're like, man, if I didn't go to school, I'd be in good shape. But I went to school, now I got hurt. So sometimes in real life, you do things you're supposed to do, but it doesn't work out. This happens in chess. In chess, you're supposed to move out your bishops and knights, because I said so. But if you move them out, your opponent might take them. So you gotta be careful, right? So when you're driving, oh, there's lightning, I'll drive over here. Then you're safe. Okay, so it's funny because that exact story almost happened 2 weeks ago. All right, so white played the move queen b3. That's too advanced for this class, but I'll explain it anyway. White's doing two things. That's a lot of things, isn't it? Yeah. So if black wants to take the knight and mess up my pawns, I don't have to mess up my pawns. You know why? There's a reason.
Queen.
Yeah, I could play queen over here. No, I could play queen takes bishop. Yeah, okay. That was reason number one. More importantly, white's actually threatening something. So white threatens something and defends something. So I'm guessing white was a good player. Bad players usually not doing anything.
Whose name is White?
What?
Whose name is White?
His name was Joe. Okay, now in this position, black decided that losing a pawn is bad. So he played queen c8. And now queen takes b7 is risky. So he didn't do that. So white played h3, and in a very big shock to everybody who ever lived, black made the losing move, which isn't easy to do. Obviously, you could let the guy take your bishop, but he's an international master, so he's not going to let the guy take his bishop. So he made the only reasonable looking move that loses by force.
The Force of Star Wars?
Exactly, yeah. You use the forks. Yeah.
The
That's right.
Forks?
Yeah. Okay, so black had a loose piece in this position. Nothing is defending it. And in this position, queen c8, now it's not loose. It's defended. Hooray! And after h3, black has all these squares for his bishop, or he could take the knight. One of those moves makes his piece loose again. Which move? I showed you all the moves. Which one of them leaves black with a loose bishop?
H5?
Bishop h5. That's what he played.
I know.
Yeah. Now, white's winning. No, what a world. What's the winning move for white, which white played? Recommended by me.
B5 check.
Yeah, queen,
B5 check. A5. A4 check.
queen a4 check. I don't think that wins the bishop unless you've had too much to drink. So queen b5 check, no drinks necessary. Right? That wins the bishop. Yeah? And that's what white played, and black was like, oh. Okay, so when your pieces are loose, which by my definition, the book definition is they're not protected. My definition is they're on the 4th and 5th rank. That's when you lose pieces. Because when your pieces are on the 3rd rank, they're almost always protected. It's hard, it's possible, but it's hard. When on the 4th and 5th rank, which is usually a good square for your piece, they're not protected, you might lose them. especially when your king is open. That's an open king. All those moves are check. In fact, the audience suggested 2 of them, the ones that were legal. And black lost, and he cried. Okay, now, this is actually very funny, because I was giving a lecture about 6 years ago, and I showed this position, and after I was done, somebody raised their hand, and I said, you! And they said, that's never gonna happen, you're crazy. And I said, half of that statement is correct. I was crazy, but that will happen. And then about 4 days later, it happened. The position that the student said would never happen, it happened right away. Okay, and the person I was playing was rated 1450, and they lost a piece immediately. And I was like, yes, because I was playing them. Okay, this is the Sicilian, my favorite opening and my favorite pizza. Okay,
Pizza?
and in this, yes, Sicilian pizza. And in this position, every grandmaster in the world plays either d4 or bishop b5 check. But I play c3 because I want to play d4 and I want to take with a pawn. I'm the best. And then they attack my pawn on e4.
Are you better than Magnus Carlsen?
Much better. So better is incorrect. Much better. Okay? So knight takes e4. Now, let me tell you how much better than Magnus Carlsen I am. If he was in here teaching in Norwegian, you wouldn't understand him at all. Terrible. Okay, in fact, if I was teaching in Norwegian, nobody would understand me, even Norwegians. All right, so notice that my pawn is attacked because I said so, and yet I played bishop e2.
Wow.
Now, am I crazy like a fox or crazy like Fox News? It's unclear. What? In this game, it's like a fox. Okay.
Fox News.
Now, if you're playing somebody rated 2600 and you think they blundered a pawn on move 4, you're probably wrong. Probably. My opponent thought like 8 seconds and took that pawn. Insult. I was insulted. Okay. And I lectured on this a few days before this game, and I said, knight takes e4 is a blunder, and the audience is like, nobody would do that, and then my opponent did that. So the audience was wrong as usual. And now I made the winning move. Who's it winning for? For white. What's the winning move?
Oh, move the queen to a4.
That's what I did. And then he was like, ah. When he thought I blundered a pawn on move 4. Check. And attacking his knight.
Nice mohawk.
One grandmaster I played this move. I think I know why he played that. Now he wants to take my pawn. Right?
Well, that's terrible.
Yeah, well, it takes a pawn. So I defended it. I'm the best. Okay.
No, you're not.
Well, I'm better than Magnus. Maybe not Wesley. Okay, so knight takes e4 is a blunder, because check. And what kind of piece is this? What did you learn today? What's that called?
Free piece.
Free piece? What do I call it?
A loose piece.
A loose piece. Now, I have 2 questions about this. The first one is, what's the name of the river? Okay, and my second question is, what was my second question?
Danube.
Very good, you remembered. Okay, and what was my second point? I have no other second point. Awesome.
Okay, I think it was Danube.
What? Good job. And why did I mention it before? And nobody knows, right?
No,
I know I don't know. Yeah. Okay,
What a
exactly.
past.
That's your favorite city?
What?
Nah, he's like never. Okay, now, this is a funny story too, mainly because I like stories. So I was playing in a tournament in Chicago before all of you were born. All of you. Even you at home. And it was a Masters tournament. It's called like the Midwest Masters or the US Masters, who knows. And I was playing my game and I was like on move 4 and I was like, And then I looked over and the guy resigned to the next board. And I was like, well, the round started 4 minutes ago. What's going on? Now, if I have a kids tournament, all the games are over in 4 minutes. This is a Masters tournament. Usually they start shaking hands for 4 minutes. I'm like, what's going on? And this is what happened. Uh-oh. You see this piece? What do we call that?
A loose piece.
A loose piece, but white's not going to win it. Or is he? C4, and C4 is?
Explosive.
Explosive, right. Okay, E6. So this is normal, everybody's happy. If I turn the engine on, it says, yeah, great, you guys are great. Look how good
What's
you guys
the
are
grade
playing.
on?
What's who?
The great odds.
This one, that says everybody's playing great. It says equal, everything's equal. Okay? And then white played c takes d5, and black was confused because black had so many captures. Black has so many captures, you guys can't count them all. That's a more advanced class. Exactly. Right, Ovi?
Right.
Let's see how advanced Ovi is.
Okay.
How many captures does black have?
1, 2, 3, 4.
4. Right. Of the 4 captures, even though it was a Masters tournament, black decided to play the worst one. Maybe he wanted to go eat, I don't know. He played the one that loses.
Queen takes.
What's wrong with queen takes?
Maybe knight discovers somewhere.
Maybe not.
Oh.
His answer is maybe. That's why he's in the beginning class. Yeah, now there's an advanced player finding the losing move. C takes. That's what the guy played. Then he resigned next move.
Oh, a queen check.
You! Ovi doesn't know the etiquette of the class, raising your hand and calling on you. He just yells out stuff. He's from another country. He doesn't. Yeah. But he does know a lot about Budapest. Yeah, for example, now he wasn't here, right? He just walked in. Right? What river goes through the Budapest, the city?
The river?
Yeah.
Is it Danube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, he knew. I asked him that a lot. Yeah. Right. Okay, so queen a4 check, attacking the king and attacking the bishop. And what kind of piece is this?
A loose.
That's a loose piece. What's funny is, if black did anything else, he's fine. Like if he takes with this pawn, this isn't check, is it? Yeah. Takes with the queen, that's okay, I wouldn't do it. And he could also take the knight, then he's not going to lose his bishop because he traded it. Right. If I turn the engine on, it doesn't even C takes, not even a move. It's like E takes, bishop takes, queen takes. If I play C takes, what color is this going to be?
Red.
Red, right. Oh, it's red. And then queen a4 check wins. Now I want to explain this to you so you've learned something. You want to learn something? Okay. Sometimes when the computer says +3 or +4 or +5, that's because every move is like that. You're down a rook, you're down a knight. But many times the computer says one move is winning and the other moves are all equal. That happens a lot when grandmasters play. They miss a move.
How much?
When weaker players are playing, every move is winning. They're like, oh, I'm down 2 pieces. So every move is +6. When grandmasters are playing, you're like, +6? What kind of grandmaster is that? And the answer is, there's 30 legal moves and he missed one of them and it's +6. So obviously the guy who had black, he didn't see queen a4 check. He saw every other move and he was like, great. Because it was fine for him. After queen a4 check, then he cried. Was he a grandmaster?
I don't know.
No, and he was, they took his title away. And he's looking for it now. It's actually under the table here. And don't show him. Yeah. The title's right there. Yeah.
Where?
And then, eventually, he kept hanging pieces. So the worst thing that ever happened to him. Do you know what that was?
What?
He went to Title Max, they wouldn't give him his title back. Yeah, he was like, I'm a grandmaster. And they're like, no, queen a4 check. No, your title's going away. Now, the biggest difference between you players in the room and grandmasters isn't that we know more theory, we play better than you. That's not why. It's you guys blunder every game and we never blunder. So you can play better than us for 20 moves in a row and the computer says, good job, you have an advantage, then you hang your queen. And then we're like, great. Okay, we don't do that though. So if you hang your rook or your queen every game, we don't care how good you play, you're going to lose anyway. And in fact, yesterday was a funny example. After the tournament, we were here late cleaning up, and family walked in, and they said, are you still open? And we said, sure. And I played this kid who was rated about 700, and the first game then we played again, and I was like, wow, this guy's easy, I don't have to pay attention. So he was just crushing me. So we got to an ending where he had a queen and a rook, and I had a queen and a knight, and we both had like 5 pawns. He was up a pawn. So I'm just going to lose. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to lose. Then he moved his rook and I took it. And then I wasn't going to lose. Yeah. So he played better than me for like 25 moves, then he moved his rook where I could take it. Okay? And opening traps and loose pieces, even though it was the middle game or the end game, it was the same thing. He moved a rook where it was loose and I took it. Okay? And if his pieces were protected, I don't know if I was going to win. I mean, 700, so maybe I would win. But I was incredibly losing. Like if it was a tournament game and I was playing a 2200, I would have resigned. But it was a splits game, and I was playing a 700, so I was the favorite. But the point was, even though he plays better than me, I don't like hang my rook or hang my queen, I just play bad. You can play bad all you want, as long as you don't hang anything. Once you start hanging things, right? And my wife Karen, she gets upset about how bad she plays, and I'm like, you didn't hang anything, so you won. Right? She's like, yeah, but this is better, and I'm like, you didn't hang anything, and he hung everything, so you won. Like that's, you know, as long as you don't hang things, you win. And you guys all hang everything, so I like playing you guys. Thanks. Yeah. All right, so that was class number 1, opening traps and loose pieces. And if you come here next week, the Grandmaster title might be there, 50-50. Okay, and then I'll see you guys in half an hour for class number 2. That's like for under 1350, perfect for OV. All right, bye everyone.